Octo might just be the most unique agent in Deceiving, having mechanics that no other agent has anything close to. In this video, we're going to be looking at Octo's strengths and weaknesses, go over his kit, and showcase two different Octo builds, his initial build that everyone must use, and my personal preferred build. While I may not be the world's #1 Octo, this guide should be more than enough for you to hit the ground running. Alright, let's start it up. While classes aren't really a thing in Deceive, Octo is considered a disruptor, who are supposed to be experts at controlling space and disturbing the flow of fights. Mostly though, this comes down to disruptors have neutralize, which prevents other people from using their expertise, so kinda disturbing the flow of fights. In terms of controlling spaces, Octo has one expertise, and maybe one of his weapons could be considered space controlling. So I can kind of see, and I don't think he fits the disruptor category, you know, better than any of the other ones, but he kind of just plays fairly uniquely. Unlocks in Deceive are locked by the character mastery system. As you play more with Octo, gain mastery points and mastery levels. There's up to 10 levels. At levels 2, 6, and 10, you'll gain cosmetic rewards. At level 3, the second passive. Level 4, the second expertise. Level 5, the second weapon. Level 7, the final passive. Level 8, the final expertise. And level 9, the final weapon. Once you've completed your 10 mastery levels, you move into the long-term progression system known as Echelons. Echelons are a very long-term thing that's supposed to take between 400 and 600 gameplay hours to complete the 100 Echelon levels. There's a lot of rewards along the way, most notably at levels 10, 50, and 100, there's unique costumes, and at level 30, there's a unique ink. With every level, you'll gain some of the unique currency bonds. Let's start by talking about Octo's weapons. Octo's weapons gimmick is that they all have two different fires. There's the hip fire, which is normal ammo, normal shots, which we'll talk about, and they all have a unique ADS fire that consumes intel in different ways, so we'll have to talk about them individually, but did want to shout out the gimmick at the start. So his weapon 1 here is a semi-auto carbine. The hip fire damage is listed there first. 15 and 20 is pretty bad at 1.8 shots per second. 20 headshot damage is like okay if you're landing all headshots. You can kill someone in 5 or 6. But frankly, the hip fire on this gun is just bad and is really a last resort kind of shot. It does have fall off. We should mention it's a 20 meter before you start losing damage, and then even at 30 meters you do keep 60% of that damage, so it doesn't have a lot of fall off. It's fairly long range, but again, the hip fire is just not something you're really wanting to use. The ADS fire for this weapon is really where it's at. The aim down sight will consume 1 intel for every shot, but both the headshot and the body shot will do 23 damage, which doesn't seem like a lot, but at 23 damage, it will take exactly 5 shots to kill any person with any health chip in the game. No more, no less. As long as you land 5 shots, they will die. So this is better than it seems because of something we can't really see in the numbers here. When you ADS, the projectile you fire, you can't even see it that well in the video, is huge. It's a really giant intel projectile. And that makes it really difficult to miss, which makes this weapon incredibly consistent, where you have to hit 5 shots, which yes, is a little bit more than some weapons, and yes, it does fire slower than some weapons, but you're probably firing 5 or maybe 6 times, and that's it. You're not really gonna miss one of these ADS shots. Now, that big projectile does have a bit of a downside, where if your opponent is playing around cover well, it does make it really easy to hit that cover instead of the opponent, easier than any of the not giant projectile weapons in the game, pretty much any other weapon. And the other thing that's important to know is this intel projectile does not have any fall off, so you can shoot it across the entire map and it will still do full damage. Now, there is another thing to know about this weapon, where when you land that intel shot, you will automatically reload the normal ammo. This really doesn't matter too much. It just because you should never run out of a normal ammo. You only get 6 shots before you have to reload it. So hopefully you have at least 1 intel. So if you are choosing for some reason to use the hip fire, or you just have to because you have no intel, you can fire all 6 and then do 1 intel shot and then fire 6 without having to go through that 1.8 second reload. So there is a lot of uptime on this gun, but realistically you should basically 100% use the ADS fire to fire 1 intel. And yeah, that's really the weapon. Don't use the hip fire, just hit someone 5 times with your ADS shot and win fights that way. Moving on to his weapon 2, which is totally different. This is a chain gun. It ramps up in fire rate as it gains heat. It has a heat system, not a reload system, and it also has a different ADS mode to what we just saw. So the chain gun hip fire here does 5 to the body, 8 to the head, which isn't a lot, but it does ramp up from 3 shots per second to 9 shots per second, I believe. So it does ramp up a lot as it's gaining heat. So as you're firing more and more, you know, your gun's gaining heat, and eventually when that heat caps out, Octo has to go through his reload animation, which is that 3.3 seconds you see there, where he's cooling down the weapon, and you can't really do much while you're in that quote-unquote reload. But one of the advantages of a heat system is you can heat up the weapon almost to full and then do something else. In this case, like the ADS fire, use your expertise, use a gadget, throw some melees. As long as you didn't fully overheat it and you're not locked into that reload or cool down animation, you can still do pretty much anything, and the gun will cool down while you're doing it. So the 5 and 8 isn't great, but it does ramp up okay. It's still probably not it's not easy to get a kill with just the chain gun, even if you're ambushing. It's just not quite there, but that's what the ADS fire is for. So the ADS fire on this one is basically a rocket launcher. You can charge up to 5 intel into your gun, and you will gain 10 damage in a big AoE like rocket that for each of those intel. So anywhere from 10 to 50 damage on that. And it does hit an AoE, so if you're playing in teams, you can hit multiple people with it. And the AoE also gets larger the more intel you put into it. So if you're ambushing with this gun, you can charge up a 50 damage burst, and then you can well, unleash that on an unsuspecting victim, and then do the other 50 or 65 damage with your chain gun. And usually that's pretty doable with the way it is now. So I think that works really well. One of the downsides of this weapon is when you get ambushed, you don't really have time to do that charge. You can maybe do a little, but it might be better to just fire your chain gun and try to make it work that way. But this is one of the guns I don't really recommend in solos. It works if you get all ambushes, or you can make it work, or if you get ambushed and you can like duck behind cover and charge it up, you can make it work, but I think it's way harder to use than his other 2 weapons in solos. In duos and trios though, I think this can really shine. You can hit many people with the explosion. You may not be the main target, so you can get multiple of these rockets off in the in one fight. I think this is okay in those modes, but in solos I don't really ever take it unless I'm having just a fun game. Moving on to his final, this one is a combination assault rifle and sniper rifle. So the hip fire is a lot like a red weapon 1 with even less damage. It's only 6 and 8, not a lot, but if you're landing some headshots, you're doing okay. But again, you want to at least be leading or hitting a couple of these ADS shots during a fight. So the ADS is a sniper rifle. You do get this scope similar to like Ace's snipers. The body shots are going to hit for 34, and the headshots are going to hit for a big 60 on that. But they are going to cost you 2 intel per shot, so that's twice as much as the weapon 1, but you're getting a lot more damage than the weapon 1 if you're trying to make that direct comparison. So there is that. Something interesting with this weapon is that the sniper rifle has a different fire rate than the automatic rifle. So we can see the rate of fire there is for the automatic rifle. The hip fire is 6 per second. The sniper rifle has a much lower fire rate, and it applies in a slightly unexpected way. Where if you're firing the assault rifle, you can like quick scope the sniper, but then that it will be on the sniper fire rate until your next shot. So there's this bit of a gap after you fire that sniper shot, and it's just for balance reasons. It feels a little awkward, but it does make sense. You just did like a big burst of damage, and then there's kind of this delay before you can start hip firing or fire a second sniper shot. 20 shots in the mag is probably enough. 2.1 reload is kind of long, but again, the intel shots don't have any reload, so if you kind of run out of that 20 and you still have intel left, then you can just use intel shots exclusively. I think this one's good. I think it might be best. The headshots are hitting for 60 on the sniper. If you're landing those, you're doing great. It doesn't have the consistency of the weapon 1 with its very specific hit 5 shots and win fight. But I think this is probably just a really good gun. Potentially better, potentially worse than the weapon 1. And we'll see this one in the preferred build. It's really fun to use. And yeah, just to shout out again, the fall off for all the intel shots is 0. There's no fall off. Sorry, I guess it's infinite. There is no fall off on the intel shots. The fall off on our hip fire for this one here is 15 meters, which is pretty normal. And then you lose half that damage at the 25 meter mark. So pretty good gun overall. Now let's move on to Octo's expertises. So his expertise are all intel related, as we saw all of his weapons need intel in some way to fire, I will say, effectively or at their peak. So all of his expertise are intel related. So this one makes a big cone in front of you, and any intel source, any computers in that cone get automatically hacked, and you get that intel. It's a big cone. It goes through walls. This is a really good ability. And then on top of that, if it's already hacked and you use this ability, it reboots and gets that intel back. So it costs you nothing except your expertise. It's not like you're putting intel back into it. It's just getting more intel. So you can hack a whole room and then use this expertise and then hack the whole room again, assuming you can hold that much intel. So this one's really good. You can like get into an early blue, and if you know where there's intel sources in the purple room beyond, you can just look at the wall, hit the button. The cone's fairly big. It's a little bit generous, so it's not that hard to hit. Of course, there's better angles and worse that you just have to learn as you play the game. I can't really like tell you this is the right spot to look, but if you're looking for them, I'm sure you'll find them. And you just get intel. So this one's pretty good because you can just like get an early blue and then use this to get enough intel to get through the purple or various other things. It makes it really difficult to run out of intel. Even in a fight, this is like an instant, so you can use it potentially mid-fight if you run out of intel to just get more. So it's a pretty good one. I think this is my second favorite overall, but I think it's definitely worth taking fairly often. Moving on the house. This is probably the most complex one. It's also potentially the one that lags the most computers. There's a lot going on in this one. So It doesn't show it very well in the video here, but when you hit this button, it makes a giant circle around you. You'll see these big binary numbers, not the little ones we're seeing in the video here, but you'll see a big circle around you with big binary numbers. And any Intel source, any computer in that circle, there's no verticality, so it's at the same level you are, plus or minus like a meter just for safety, is a siphon beacon, which is those little binary purple circles we're seeing in the video there. And then any enemies who are within that little pink circle we see that's around the intel there get their intel drained into you. So you can remotely just get intel from other players with this if they stay in these circles, and they're really hard to avoid. If an Octo uses this, like there's intel all over, and the circles take up like half a hallway. So there's an intel source on like either wall of a hallway. I don't think you can make it through most hallways in this game without losing at least one intel, which that Octo is going to know. Now, they're not necessarily going to be able to tell which of the many circles you walk through, so it's not quite a spy check, but Octo would have gained one intel from that. That's like the first 3 lines of this like 7-line thing we just went over. So the other thing is if you're on a team mode, when you're draining that intel from enemies, your allies also get that. So it kind of doubles that intel. If you get one, they get one. And if for whatever reason someone's hacking one of these siphon beacons or intels with these pink circles around them, if they're standing next to it and hacking it, you're already stealing all their intel. And if they actually finish that hack, you steal half of the intel they just hacked as well. So if they're hacking a 4, you're going to steal 2 of that. Not to mention if they're hacking it manually, the time it takes to hack a 4, you would have stolen probably at least 4. And then when they have to leave that circle where they just hacked the 4, you're probably going to pick up the other 2. So it's basically if they use Spyglass, because if you ever see this, you should not enter those circles, and you should definitely not be hacking the intel in those circles. It just takes too long, and you're going to end up just giving the Octo intel. So yeah, it just is another way where rivals can't do much, and it just kind of prevents them from hacking and keeps them out of these areas. Now, there's still more to this. Any intel you as Octo hack while this is on, you share with your team. And that's not share as in you split it, it's share as in it's doubled. So if you hack a 2, your teammates also get 2. And that's really powerful. And then finally, as your teammates hacked these indicated ones with the purple circle, they're called siphon beacons again, but I don't really like to use that name because it's a little odd. If your teammates are hacking those, they're sharing that intel back with you. And again, sharing in this is doubling, not splitting. So this is a really complex ability, and in solos it works out to being not good. So that was a long explanation about a complex ability. In solos this isn't good. It's not doing a lot. It's really easy for one person to avoid the circles once they know they're there. Sure, you might pick up an intel or 2, but you're losing a lot of the ability where you're not sharing that intel with your team, which is pretty important to get value from this. And like rivals, like there's only one person trying to avoid these circles per team, versus in a team mode with 3 people, there's just less space to hide from these. Not to mention in team modes, you're sharing that intel. This is definitely, I don't want to say teams exclusive, but it's so much better in teams. So I'll go so far as to say it's pretty much only worthwhile taking in teams. Now, if you actually want to take it over the other 2, that's kind of debatable. I still personally think that the other 2 are pretty much better in most cases, but this one works in teams at its peak. Now we're gonna push on. This one's still probably confusing, and I understand if you're still confused by it. I still get confused by it. I was playing trios the other day, and a teammate of mine was using this. I'm like, oh yeah, it does this. Oh yeah, it does that. It does a lot. It's a confusing ability, so hopefully I've done it some justice. Now, make 'em fold here. Octo Expertise 3. I'm not gonna lie. This is probably one of the best, if not the best, expertises in the entire game, and it would be complained about more if it wasn't on Octo. So let's talk about what it does. I usually call this putting your goggles on, because that's functionally what it is. He reaches up and turns his glasses on. So anyone is in your vision who has intel drains, so you are stealing their intel. It doesn't matter if they're in cover or not, you get to steal their intel over time, 1 per every little bit, and you'll get this little indicator around the edges of your screen that's that you are draining. Now you get this indicator even if you're at max intel and don't have room for any more, or if they're at 0 intel, you still get this indicator that you're draining them, even if you can't hold anymore and they can't lose anymore. So you still get this little indicator around the corners of your screen. It's actually not in the video, it's little binary numbers. We will definitely see it in the preferred build showcase, and I'll try to shout it out if I remember. So that's like half the ability. The second half of the ability is once they're out of cover, they get exposed, which prevents them from getting their cover back, and they become neutralized, so they can't use any of their expertises on you. So this is specifically when they're out of cover that they get that neutralized, and exposed just kind of keeps them out of cover. It's not, the exposed isn't all that valuable, it's mostly the neutralize, but it does prevent them from gaining the cover back to lose the neutralize. Is pretty much why that is there. So that is that ability. You can use it as a spy check. Using this or any of Octo's expertise does not break Octo's cover, so you can just be walking along, use this. It has a timer, it lasts for a while, and you basically just look around, and if you're not moving while you look around, then no one can tell you looking around. That's just a deceive cover mechanic. And if you start draining, then you just have to change your vision in different ways until you can narrow down which NPC you're draining from, and that's a player. Then you can start the fight. As soon as you break their cover, they get exposed and neutralized, so they can't get their cover back or use their stuff against you, their expertise against you. This ability is kind of amazing. It's one of the best in the entire game. And it's kind of crazy, and I take this one 90% of the time because it's just that good. Yeah, if you want to win games on Octo, probably take this one, unless you have a specific reason to take caching out, like you're trying to do some big intel things. And if you're having some fun in some team modes on the house, it can be really good too for intel sharing purposes. Let's move on to the passives, which are less complex, but not always by that much. So this is edging your bets. This is a pretty good passive. Basically, you have a chance to refund your intel every time you spend intel. Pretty simple ability. Let me just make sure I have my numbers up. So the chance you have of getting that refund is the difference between how much intel you have when you're done hacking versus how much your maximum intel is, with a maximum difference of 20. Which means if you have exactly 1 intel and you hack a gray safe costing you 1 intel, and you have a max intel of 20, you can hold 20 intel. When you're done hacking, you're going to have 0. That is the maximum amount, the largest possible chance you will have of getting that expertise back, and that will be 50% of the time you will get that 1 intel back. If you do it the other way, where you have 20 intel and you spend 1, the difference there is 1, and you will have a 5% chance of getting that intel back, and every number in between. You know, you can use those two extremes to figure it all out. This is really good. Basically, we did some math sort of there, but the lower your intel is, the more likely you are to get this refund, which works out well. And using this effectively is something you have to think about while playing with Octo, but it's kind of a second nature thing. The best way to use it is to have exactly the amount of intel you need when you spend it. So if you need to hack a blue door, you want to have exactly 5 intel, which will push you all the way to 0, which will give you that largest chance to get that 5 back. Then you move to the purple door, you want to have exactly 8 or as close to 8 as possible, so you have that largest chance to get that 8 back. That's pretty much the best way to use it. It's something you really got to think about, or at least I do, because I like to stockpile intel. And on Octo, stockpiling intel can be easy, but even when you're at the maximums, you still have a 5% chance of getting some back. And as you lose intel more and more, then that chance goes up. Now, this does work on all intel spending. We talked about Octo's weapons all have alternate fires that cost intel. Yes, this works with those. So as you're firing that weapon one, if you're on your last intel and you really need to land those intel shots and you're on your last one, you have a decent chance of getting that one back. Now, this is indicated by these like thumbs up, thumbs down thing we're seeing in the video there, right by the intel thing. It's kind of hard to see in the small video, but we'll see it in the initial build showcase. Those thumbs up, thumbs down don't mean anything. There's only two, and that it implies a 25% chance of landing double thumbs up every time, which is just wrong. Those aren't what the numbers are in the back end. It's just a little visual thing, but the only one that matters is double thumbs up means you got it. Anything else means you didn't. I think that's really all I have to say about this one. This specifically, we'll talk about field upgrades later, but this specifically makes gold intel capacity good on Octo because that does push you maximum up to 20, which will end up giving you that largest possible refund once you have an empty bar. Okay, moving on to big investment. Big investment I love because it's the simplest one. Every time you gain 10 intel, you can hold 2 more. That's the entire passive. So you start the game with a 10 intel max, you hack and your intel is full at 10. As soon as you hack that 10th intel, now you can hold 12. You hack 10 more, you can hold 14. And you just go up and up and up the whole game. There is no maximum. Believe me, I've tried, others have tried. I think the largest number I've seen like in a game is in the 60s or 70s for maximum intel. And we did a test in a custom game and I got like almost 300 maximum intel capacity. And we didn't even, it wasn't even that like difficult. There is no maximum that we can find for this number. There's probably some programmatic one, but presumably there's no meaningful maximum for this. Now, this one's really good and my favorite one we'll see in preferred build. It does have a downside, quote unquote, where you can't gain intel if you're at max intel. So sometimes you on Octo with this, you kind of spend intel so you can gain intel so you can gain maximum intel space. So you'll sometimes see Octos open safes they don't need. Even I won't go so far as to say they skip key cards, but that's another thing you could do. So you have to manually hack doors, which will give you more space so that you can hack more intel so you can get more space. It's kind of a cool loop. Again, something to think about. This one I really like. It's really easy to use, and if you think about it like a lot, then you can get some big numbers. But I think even if you don't think about it too much, you can get some okay numbers. And I think if you're running this one, you can skip an intel capacity chip on your base build pretty easily if that was something you would take on most other agents. Again, we'll talk about field upgrades later. I think they're a little cool with Octo. Moving on finally to the jackpot. This one I think is his worst, which is not really sad. It's still good, but the other two are just so really good with intel, and this one doesn't really have a lot to do with intel, and Octo is pretty intel reliant, so I think that's why this one gets edged out a bit. But basically, if you gain or lose intel during your expertise, which only his expertise 2 and 3 actually have durations. The first one just kind of happens, so you can't really, this one doesn't really work with his expertise, or at least this half of it doesn't really work with his expertise 1. But for the other two, if you gain or lose intel during your expertise duration, that duration gets longer. So for your passive 3, the goggles that are draining intel from people, well, anytime you drain intel and you actually get an intel, you have to have room and get that intel. That duration will get increased. So you just get more and more time in that until you max out on intel or they stop getting intel. Now, this does work if you just hack intel while your expertise is up. That's another form of getting intel. So that works that way as well. Then on top of that, when you're not using your expertise, so this works with all 3 of his expertise, whenever you spend or get intel, which if you're not using your expertise is going to be shooting your gun or just hacking normally, there's a chance you get some or all of your intel or your expertise cooldown back. So this can be good. The chance of getting that full cooldown back is 3.5%. Not a lot, but not nothing either. It does happen probably at least once a game, maybe twice a game even, when I was using this. But even if you're just playing the game normally, whenever your expertise is off cooldown, there's a chance you'll get that jackpot and get it fully back. And if you don't get that jackpot, every time you do gain or spend intel, you get some of that cooldown back. So this one's not terrible. If you use this with the expertise 3, which we called out as being very good, you know, you can do a lot with it. But it doesn't interact well with your intel. Of course, it depends on intel. It's acting on intel, but it's giving you cooldown on your expertise, versus these two are directly interfacing with how much intel you can hold or how much intel you're spending. Essentially, this is spending less. So that's why I don't think this one's so good, because I think the other two just push it out, since Octo is pretty intel reliant. But this has been a long expertise and passive section, so hopefully you're still with us, and we are gonna push on now. While no gadgets are necessarily agent specific, we'll talk a bit about some Octo ones. The first thing that comes to mind and is worth a shout out is the Hollow Mimic. I don't think we've shouted this out on any agent yet, but with the weapon 2 and its charge, you can actually charge that rocket, as we were calling it, the 5 intel shot, while you're Hollow Mimicked. So this can be a pretty valuable thing where you can just kind of charge it up. If you like duck around the corner and use this, you can charge it up, and in the time they'll, you know, even if your opponent finds you, it's probably not instant, it could be, but like it's probably not instant, and you've probably charged it up a bit and can unleash it that way rather than just, you know, anything else. This one's kind of gimmicky with the weapon 2, but worth calling out that works. The hack trap, the only gadget that can give you intel, imagine that, is a call out for Octo. The hack trap's good, and you gain intel every time your hack trap is triggered, which if you're using like your passive 2, that's another way of you gain, or your passive 2 or 3, that's another way of gaining intel to activate those passives. And since, again, we've talked a lot about Octo being somewhat, I don't want to say intel reliant, maybe not dependent, but he works better with intel. This is another way to get intel. I think that's kind of it. Oh, I should call it the Spyglass. It's a generically good gadget, but since Octo is so intel reliant, having this to get intel easier from further away while you're moving, just another gadget that interacts with intel well. This one works pretty well on Octo as well. I think that's kind of it now. I don't really see anything else specifically to call out as combos. Again, you can use kind of any gadgets for your playstyle and such, but those are some Octo specific things to call out. Now let's talk field upgrades. We're always using the base here in our guides, the ones you start the game with. But let's talk specifics. Expertise cooldown is good on Octo. I know we said his passive that gave you expertise cooldown wasn't so good, but that's mostly because the other ones are just better, not because it's not good. Expertise cooldown is pretty good on Octo for any of his expertise, so I'm glad to have it here on purple. I don't know if I'd go all the way to gold like I do on some of the Scoundrel agents, but it is good to have this. And we'll talk extended ammo pouch. We'll be doing our showcases in solos. I don't really like ammo pouch in solos because there's only one player per team, so all that ammo on the map is going to one player. In teams mode, that ammo on the map has to go to a whole team of players, so there's less, so holding more might be valuable. For Octo specifically, since he doesn't use a lot of his regular ammo, he obviously does on some weapons, but especially if you're using weapon 1, I wouldn't bother with this even in teams, since you're mostly firing intel, not ammo, and this doesn't affect intel. But this affects intel. The external hard drive increases your intel capacity, And I think you should absolutely be running this on Octo, unless you're taking the passive 2, which gives you intel capacity, the max intel capacity, just as a passive. Yes, you can definitely still double up if you want to. If you're taking passive 1, the refund, taking this at the gold level is going to get you that top possible refund. So I think this is really good to take on Octo. He's just somewhat, as we've said many times, intel reliant. Hack speed, similar reason, getting more intel faster. Now, you might be able to get away without this if you don't have or if you have the expertise 1, which lets you hack that cone in front of you, but you're still going to hack things like doors, so you might as well have hack speed for that anyway. So I still recommend grabbing this. We already talked about expertise cooldown, and I don't think anything else combos specifically with Octo, and this isn't really a chip guide, so we're not going to call out like generically good chips too much, but we do like to call it the exfiltration scanner as being a generically bad chip, and you shouldn't really be taking it at all. And finally, before we get into our showcases, let's quickly review what we'll be showing. The initial build is obviously the weapon 1, the expertise 1, and the passive 1. And then the preferred build is going to be the weapon 3. Now, weapon 3 isn't actually my preferred. I do like to use the weapon 1 most of the time I am playing, but to show off different weapons, we'll be using this one, and it's probably my second favorite. So preferred build, weapon 3, expertise 3, and passive 2, showing off that big intel gains. And well, we'll get right into the showcases now, and I'll see you there. Okay, we got Diamond Spire for Octo initial build showcase here. Oh, Doug's going running. Let's get going. Basically, we should be getting intel, but we'll really get going once our expertise is up and we can just grab a bunch. One thing to call out is we don't have any intel capacity in this at all, which Octo would really like some of, either through his passive 2 or just a chip. Like, I'd probably even put it on gold if I was actually trying to run this build. So I think I'm making this harder than it needs to be, and you should probably be running it on gold, or at least some level of intel capacity. This is...
Ooh, sweet new duds.
The heck? There was 3 people, all look the exact same, and none of them were players. Great. But we did see a ton of intel in that room, and since our ability goes through walls, and we have it now, we'll just gonna... There we go. Get through the next door. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this, because if we do make it to phase 3 with the package, our intel is going to be both our ammo and our like package vision, and we're only going to have 10 of it. So we'll be relying a lot on our passive refund and being able to use our expertise, which our expertise cooldown chip, I think for this specifically, is going to be okay, since we'll get more use of it and we'll be relying on it a bit. But normally I don't think it's all that good if you're running for this expertise to run that high of a capacity or a cooldown chip. Are you someone looking to hack your way in? No? No. Alright, well, it's almost back up again. Oh, there's a keycard in here. What we're gonna be using it for here is probably just refunding these like 2, which doesn't feel great, but if we angle it this way, there's some along that back wall. So
More, I want more.
And, we can just walk out.
Deactivated by someone else.
Now we gotta pick between up and down.
Where's the challenge?
I think I'm gonna go down. Go towards D and E. There's our first jackpot. Oh yeah, I guess having a high intel capacity chip is much better for our jackpot potential as well, because it's how far away you are from your maximum. So as your maximum goes up, your chances go up. Yeah. There's our second jackpot. Down towards D. I haven't even heard a fight yet. But we do have all key cards and everything except a gold chip. That's a player on our right, though.
But someone else deactivated
This
the
amount of wiggle, you have to be a player, right? Nope. They just made guards that wiggly, right? Alright. At least we didn't die for that.
I adore these little things.
Just in the interest, I'm just going to use that to get 2 intel.
This vault terminal has
That's
already
a bit
been
unfortunate.
deactivated.
There's one left. And whoever got this one probably went down to get this one. Tripwire. I'm wondering if this is also a player avoiding this tripwire. Yeah, I think it is. Is that in use? Oh, I didn't get to see it in time. It is. Look at this movement. 2, 3, 4.
It is called free labor. I like it.
All right.
A vault terminal was deactivated.
There's a fight somewhere. Did they break those? They did break those.
Vault open.
We didn't get a gold. I could like run through and see if there was one in there. Yeah. We saw the consistency of this gun. We even had to break through a handheld shield, which cost us 2 more shots, and it's still like 5 hits and they just die. We used the last one as a non-intel shot because I wanted to not waste intel, and I knew they were basically dead, but 5 intel shots kills anyone with this, which is why I love it so much. Peek behind us, make sure no one's like running up. I'm not, I think this is probably wrong, but I'm not gonna get that printer. Oh, well, never mind. 2, 3, 4, oh, 4, 5.
Down on your luck, huh?
It's the same every time.
Did they retreat?
Now we need an outfit. Come on, one of you come scold. You guys got this. There we go. Outfit.
Such good technology.
Alright, let's grab this. They also didn't have a gold chip, which was interesting. Neither did the Shavas, so there's probably somebody who's done a lot of the terminals, or there's a couple people still alive. Let's just manage the vigil here. Manage the suspicion bar as we get in here, and we'll keep our eyes peeled here. Is it just one? Oh, it's 2. Okay. Oh, wait. I did it. All right, I didn't forget to grab it. Perfect. Oh. Someone else printing?
Rival agent detection mode.
Yeah, this is what I'm scared of, because we don't have a ton of intel here. And while we can hack it and like reload it, it's kind of everything. We have to use it as vision. We have to use it as ammo. I didn't change the skies. Oh, I'm tripwired. Guess whoever had the tripwires is still alive. I'm gonna have to shoot some Dugs, I think. Let's see if we can get in a back corner here. Is anyone chasing? Not really. Come on. There's no way you're seeing. All right, you guys are apparently all seeing me. Man, the guards are so aggressive now. We're gonna go hide in the bathroom. All right, there we go.
Rival agent detection mode.
All right, luckily they didn't give chase. And we get to change the skies. This doesn't reach all that far. It did get us enough.
Rival agent detection mode.
Is she the dog? She is. 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 HP to spare, not bad. Alright, 1 person left. So they did approach eventually. I just had to make sure that I was hitting the right guard with this gun, which is easier said than done. Who's left? There was 1 person, they're just not in range. 3 minutes before the car auto calls we got to be aware of. They were up, right? Yeah, I think we just go to B. I think we just run out to B, which plays to our advantage of no damage fall off and relatively straight sight lines. And it looked like a Chavez, so. I mean, they have fall off, but not a ton. Get a disguise. Nope. Get this disguise.
Wait till they see what I can do with them.
Just make sure we're getting this as quick as we can. Scan? Okay. It's not a Chavez, it's another Octo.
Rival agent detection mode engaged.
That was them.
Rival agent detection mode started. Extraction deteriorated.
Two. I'm out of bullets. I'm out of bullets. We just gotta dance here for a minute. They gotta get on the point. They don't know it. They don't know they gotta get on the point. Oh my goodness, we won. I don't think we we should have, but they should have just jumped on the point and we wouldn't have been able to extract. But hey, you win some? There we go. That was a pretty good initial show. I think we saw everything. I think we saw it all working together pretty well. The weapon obviously doing damage, our expertise preventing us from losing all of our, our passive preventing us from using all of our intel, but our expertise there getting us intel as we needed it. I think it all worked pretty well, and we'll see. Well, we'll head on into the preferred or alternate build showcase, and I will see you guys in 1 second. All right, time to clip our preferred build. We got our gold outfit, our gold gun out, and just to shout out, if you're jumping to this part of the video, while the expertise 3 here and the passive 2 are my preferred, I usually run this with weapon 1, but I think it's more of a personal thing. So we're using weapon 3 in the preferred build showcase here, just to show off all other weapons than just the first one, since we see that in initial build. Get the 2 instead, and got our goggles. Let's see if we're draining anyone. Looks like no. Ooh, come on. The little railings there do interrupt the spyglass, which is a bit annoying. Sound Eclipse is kind of known for not having great spots for greens. So we'll probably be picking up one of those a little late, but that's kind of consistent with most of our guide stuff. This has a key card in it if I could just get. There we go.
Ding ding.
And only 2 intel here is definitely doable. Got that key card.
Sweet.
Let's see
I'll
what we
spend my
got.
intel somewhere else.
Okay, and oh good. I was gonna get a little worried, but with the 1 key card, that shouldn't be an issue. Wouldn't mind this being a purple room because our expertise is so powerful, and getting that expertise cooldown would be a big help. It's gold, which is still not bad. That's our hack chip, and spending less time hacking means more time doing everything else. Especially on Octo, especially with the spyglass. Oh, that was interesting. And you can see our passive 2 already at work there. Oh, hit this. Oh, come, what the? Don't know if there's much we can do while this is still up. Yeah, they just booked it, which like makes sense. I kind of thought they might, but there was no way we were going to be fighting that effectively in the smoke bomb. So we're also going to change disguises here. Oh, really? They wiggled up the stairs there. Thought that might be the Lyson coming back in a different outfit. Okay. We hear a green key card. So we're just gonna walk on the straight and narrow here, pick up this ammo, and we'll head over to E, and we'll figure out what to do from there. Alright, someone was here. It could be this Doug, but our thing's almost up. It is, in fact, this Doug. Alright. Actually, great pickups for us. Basically, everything we didn't already have was there. with the madam. Let's reload. We can sit for just a sec. I'm going to turn this off early, start the cooldown earlier.
Let's get it started.
Yeah, that worked out rather well for us, actually. Our expertise there telling us which dug it is. So we had both in our view, so we knew one of them was a player because we were joining. Then we just turned to face one, and that confirmed which of the two was the player. Ow! There's food over here, that's why I'm running this way. Okay. Grab even more food. Put this here. Hit this a lot. Grab even more food. Oh, we missed. Okay. And playing around the food tables on sound eclipse is the way you have to do it. My was draining there for a second. Yeah. Oh, food tables some more. Don't miss like that. But they're almost dead. Oh, the reload might get us. Oh, we did get it. Okay. Don't die. All right, that's a bit unfortunate because the pinging sound we're hearing is someone in the briefcase room. But we've made a really good showing of this weapon here. But unfortunately, we just get to chill for a minute. Since we were not able to go to the vault ourselves, we got rather rudely interrupted a couple times. There we go. Got back to full HP, though. Oh. Yeah, we're going to play it a bit aggressive in this vault. I do think this vault is one you should be playing rather aggressively. You can hang out in like this area because they kind of gotta come through it. So it's pretty much a choke point on its own. But also... means they're out of cover. I don't have my bounce pad back yet. Come on. Oh, I don't know. I do want to break that because I don't want them getting it back ever. Why are you fighting me? I don't think... Oh, you do have it. I thought it was a cat for some reason. Oh boy, I'm kind of just spraying bullets around. Luckily, I know I've already eaten most of this food. Oh, we missed. There we go. All right, we did get there in the end. It just took us a while, and that was the last person. So there we go. Decent showing from the weapon overall. Wasn't the best on the ADS shots with the intel shots there, but you know, we did clean up with just the hip fire there with a couple well-landed shots, and we weren't too worried about the Chavez making it to the food because we knew we had already eaten all of the food. So there we go. Pretty good showing from our preferred build. Honestly, I didn't know if it would come together so well with having absolutely no intel capacity chip. Usually I like to run a little bit even with the passive 2, but we did end up with a lot of intel, and we didn't get the package from the start, which is where you really want to have that big amount of intel, but I think it would have been okay. So there we go. Let's go back to the lobby here for just quick closing stuff. So that's going to be our Octo guide. If this did help you out, a subscription really does help me out make more videos and more guides. We're pretty much done the guides now, almost there. But if you do know of any Octo tips or generic guide stuff we have missed that we could add in the last couple, that might be worth a comment. And if, well... we usually do gameplay commentary videos here, even though we've taken a bit of a break to do all these guides. So if that's something you're into, I will see you in the next one.